So let's talk about wireless. You are probably connected wirelessly right now, cell phone, tablet, laptop, whatever it is that you're using. So how does this stuff work? Well, I can't explain all of it in a few minutes, but what I can touch on are our 802.11 standards, which is an important part of how fast it works and how well it works and what frequency you're on. So let me share my screen so you can take a look at the different standards that we're going to be reviewing. And we're only talking about the A+ level here. So you're not going to see an immense amount of information, but you're going to see what's important to not only your test, but kind of the entry-level standards that you're expected to know. All right, so here are the standards that we're going to review. 802.11a, B, G, and N. And if I can zoom smoothly, there you go. So we want to talk about two different rows of information here, the frequency and the maximum data rate, or what they call throughput. So the year that they were adopted is fun to know, and you do need to know that AC is the newest of the ones on your screen, but that's not going to be the most important part when it comes to not only answering test questions, but implementing and maintaining these in real life. So let's look at the frequency and maximum throughput. 802.11a, N, and AC all can operate at 5 gigahertz. That's the frequency that they operate at. Now notice that 802.11n actually operates at both 2.4 and 5 gigahertz. Now the maximum data rate is one of only a few numbers, and this was much easier before AC was added to the grand scheme of things, but it's still not that bad. So A and G operate at 54 meg per second, and that's megabits, not megabytes. That's why that little b is there. So megabits per second. Now, what is the difference between 802.11a and G? Well, the frequency is going to be the difference here. A operates at 5 and G operates at 2.4 gigahertz. Now, 802.11b operates the slowest out of the options that you have in front of you at 11 megabits per second. And AC is the fastest at over 1 gigabit per second. But the magic here is to remember that anything that falls between 55 megabits and 600 megabits per second is going to be 802.11n. So I've seen a lot of practice questions that are exam prep per se that will ask you which of the following would cover 540 megabits per second. And you'll see that 54 and you'll automatically go after A or G. But remember, 540 is not 54. N is considered up to 600. So I kind of, to be honest, write it out as a sandwich per se, where 802.11a and AC are at 5 gigahertz, and I just have to worry about the 2.4s in between. So you've got 5 gigahertz as the pieces of bread, and then 2.4s as all the things inside. Now, if you can remember that N operates at both, then you've completely memorized the frequencies here. Now, the maximum data throughput is a little bit different because B is the slowest, so it's an odd order. But I know that A and G are both 54, and I know B is the slowest, so that's really easy for me to remember that it's 11. And then it's just been crammed into my head over and over again that 600 is the absolute max for N, meaning that anything above 55 up to 600 is going to be the range for the data throughput for 802.11n. Now, anything over 600 is going to be 802.11ac. And I've seen different numbers in different books, and they're all reputable sources. I've seen 1 gig, I've seen 1.3, 1.7 was probably the highest I've come across, and these are gigabits per second for the maximum theoretical speed. So study this chart. If you want a different chart, it's really easy. You just Google 802.11 standards and go to the images tab. You'll see hundreds of options and pick the one that's going to help you memorize it the best. To be honest, when I was a student, the one that I used was a little bit different than what you see on your screen. And let me see if I can actually go pull it up. But the difference was, instead of having the standards listed on top of each other, they were side by side by side. So I could see them in a little bit different of a range. So I'll pull up this image for you, and who knows, it might help. So here's another example. I literally just pulled this off of Google, and I'm taking a look at 802 standards here on this side, and they're stacked up above each other. So I'm looking at a different order as well. B, A, G, N, AD, which you will not be tested on, and AC. So why are they in this order? Well, take a look at the other side all the way to the maximum data rate again. These are actually put in order by the maximum throughput speed. Now, this is a random chart, so this is why I tell you to be careful when you're Googling, because you see this is actually listed at 7 gigabits per second. And when it comes to real life implementation, that's not exactly the most accurate way to put that. So for these, be careful. And be careful what you find when you're looking for study materials anywhere you go. That's why being in class and asking questions and having somebody who's familiar with the test and being able to implement this in real life is best. So that was a quick overview of our 802.11 standards, and that's one of the many things that we need to keep in consideration for our wireless connections. All right, so that was short and quick. Re-watch it if you need to study, but my best tip for you here is to actually write down and create your own chart. A size of a flashcard should cover that for you. I was checking if I had one on my desk, and I don't. But you can take an 8.5 and 11 piece of paper, put it in an Excel sheet, or just write it on a flashcard so you can familiarize yourself with the important standards that you need to be test ready for. See you soon.